Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSeco. So, today we have two articles for our discussion. Both are from the Hindu newspaper. The first article is why the Aadhaar voter ID link must be stopped. So, as we know, that recently a bill has been passed in the parliament regarding bringing some changes in the electoral system of the country. So, basically, this bill primarily seeks to address or to connect the Aadhaar along with the voter ID and Aadhaar being used as one of the databases. So we will discuss as to what are the issues that we can see in this direction. The second article is titled as Loopholes in the Plan to Tackle Plastic Waste. So this is again regarding the new initiative that has been taken, that is the extended responsibility for the plastic, basically of the manufacturer of the plastic. So what are the issues in this and why there are some significant loopholes when we are trying to tackle the plastic waste has been discussed in this article. This newspaper analysis has been presented by me. My name is Sheva Khan. I'm a BA LLB law graduate from Uttaranchal University. I completed my graduation in the year 2019 along with a gold medal in my batch. I have also been a national debater as well as a public speaker, and currently at LawSeco, I'm working as the manager for current affairs vertical. Let's see what is the multiple choice question from our previous discussions. The right to be forgotten has been recognized as a fundamental right in. Your options are K.S. Puttaswamy judgment, Shreya Singhal case, I.R. Coelho case, or none of the above. This is the descriptive question for the day. What are the advantages and disadvantages of linking the Aadhaar to the voting system in India? With this, let's discuss the first article of the day, which talks about the need to stop Aadhaar voter ID link. So basically, this talks about the recently passed bill, which has been titled as Election Laws Amendment Bill 2021, which was passed in haste in the winter session in Lok Sabha, which has recently concluded. So let's see that what are the issues that have been raised if the Aadhaar is linked along with the voter ID of the people. So attaching the data of the voter card with the Aadhaar made the EPIC. EPIC basically EPIC is the electoral photo identity card data that was used in Telangana elections. So as we know that when we talk about the electoral reforms, Telangana has been one of the states that is most active and primarily, achieving in this situation wherein it has taken a lot of steps to increase the, technical system or increase the mechanism when we talk about the electoral system. So in Telangana, the data recently of around 2 million voters had been wiped out. Now, this is the significant loss that we actually are talking about. So the main arguments that have been raised against this move are, firstly, is the problem of data integration, as in it says that the process for integration of the Aadhaar data with the voter ID is unknown to the common people. Now, let's say example for me, you or anyone who's listening to this discussion right now. All we will understand is that we only need to give the information that we have in our Aadhaar cards, and that would be used for, as a voter ID when we later on in the later stages we go to cast our votes. But how this entire process will take up? What will be the steps that will be taken? Is the government or the related authorities assuring, are they able to assure that the data that we'll be providing them are biometric, the name, address, phone numbers, everything, will they be kept safe or not? So basically the process which will be taken up for the integration of the Aadhaar data with the voter ID data is completely unknown to the common people. In this situation, there is a very high chance that this data can be misused, or the people who have lesser knowledge on this front, they can also be misguided and their information can be misused by any such people. So the data cannot be sought out by the Right to Information Act. Now, what this issue is that since this data is very intricate, it is very personal, so it would not also be easy that it can be fetched out through the RTI as well, and that is why this makes it even more opaque instead of making it more transparent. So, according to a letter by the Election Commission of India to the Chief Electoral Officer of Telangana, it is clear that the State Resident Data Hub was used to curate the electoral rolls. And while the UIDAI, which is basically the Unique Identification Authority of India, so it actually has drawn a comparison here that the UIDAI does not record the caste, religion, and other sensitive data. But when we talk about the other authority, that is the SRDH, that is the State Resident Data Hub, it records them under the KYR, basically, which is the Know Your Resident thing. So this actually makes it very important. It's very important that Who assures that such sensitive and important data will be kept private and will also be kept very safe at the hands of the government? And in this situation, it becomes difficult for the people to act, completely trust the system and also to become a very much part of it in the long run. So in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, 360-degree profiling was done by collection of information from door to door, and this practice actually led to the deletion or basically the loss of 2 million voters, like the data of the 2 million voters in Telangana in 2018. Now, the second issue that arises, if at all we link the Aadhaar with the voter ID, will be the issue of disenfranchisement. Basically, the verification of voters is done through government sanctioned algorithm, and the purposes basically are not known to the public as to what is the purpose behind this, and it is maintained by a private company. Now, here again, the involvement of private company with such sensitive data brings another question in our mind of the safety and security of our very personal data. So, subjectively, electoral data to surveillance damages the concept of universal adult suffrage. And furthermore, when we talk about the concept of the secret ballot, like for example, it's also saying that a mock election in Telangana in 2021 uses face recognition and biometric before they can cast their vote, and that is why it completely injures and violates the idea of secret ballot, because then it will be easier to understand as to who has casted a vote in favor of which party in the elections. So adding the data will also enable the ruling power to micro influence people on the day of voting. Of course, they can do so by giving other kinds of influences and other kinds of stuff. So the introduction of the UADI data itself is often cited as undemocratic and will impact electoral functioning and electoral democracy at large. So basically, this article says that already when the Aadhaar was brought, so it was also much debated that we are actually giving a lot of our personal information in Aadhaar, and how are we supposed to be sure that this information will never be misused in the coming times by any kind of entity? Now, if at all, one debate was already going on, and if we think of linking Aadhaar along with the voter ID card as well, then definitely it will be a great, hub. It is something like keeping all your eggs in the same basket. So if at all the basket falls, so all the eggs will be broken. So that's how somehow somewhat the similar situation that we can see right now. Let's see the second article for the day, which talks about loopholes in the plan to tackle plastic waste. So recently, the extended producer responsibility was introduced by the Environment Ministry in October. So basically, the EPR, or the extended producer responsibility, is that whoever, like whichever company basically, is the manufacturer of a particular plastic, specifically here we're talking about the single-use plastic, so that producer, that manufacturer will also have the responsibility further extended to make sure that the plastic waste that is generated through this production, it is also managed and it is brought back by the same company, and it does not actually circulate in the environment as such. So the EPR, or the extended producer responsibility, is all set to come into force towards the end of the year. But there are certain issues that have been raised against the EPR. Firstly, it says that it disregards commitments made by the solid waste management rules, Swachh Bharat Mission, and plastic waste management rules. Because obviously there are some processes, some procedures, and some steps that have been mentioned in all of these set of rules that need to be taken care of if at all we are disposing of the plastic waste. But will they or will they not be, or what would be the coherence amongst these rules and the extended producer responsibility, has not been mentioned anywhere clearly. Secondly, the FMCGs. I'll tell you what FMCGs are. Basically, FMCGs are the fast moving consumer goods. So, those goods that have to be consumed fast or at a faster rate by the consumers are called as the FMCGs. For example, Amul is a company that produces butter, milk, buttermilk, etc. There are biscuits, there are, snacks, some namkeens, Haldiram, Bikaner, etc. All of these are fast moving consumer goods. So basically, the process, the tracking is very fast. They are manufactured, they're produced in a particular company, and they are brought for the public usage very quickly, and they have to be consumed within a very short span of time, otherwise they will go bad. So these are called as the FMCGs. So they should account for the costs of collection of the reused and recycled plastic. Now, obviously, when these fast moving consumer goods, since they're moving very fast in the entire circle of the consumption and production, so that is why their numbers will also be huge. And secondly, their circulation will also be multiplied because they're moving very fast in the entire circle. Due to this, definitely, and since they have to be consumed quickly, they have a tendency of producing a larger amount of the single use plastic. Let's take a very simple example of the boxes of chocolates that might come, for example. So these account for the cost of they should actually account for the cost of collection of the reused and recycled plastic. But what happens is that these costs have been externalized due to the presence of large informal sector. Specifically here we are talking about the waste pickers. So for example, we have people who actually have this as a kind of their business. They have developed it, that they pick out the plastic waste, they pick it up from the garbage or the heaps of garbage, and then they sell it out to other companies or some concerned people. So that is why it should be made sure that the FMCG, such companies, they should actually account for the cost. Otherwise they will easily be able to escape from their extended producer responsibility. Now, this article says that there are further three kinds of shortcomings on the on the face of the EPR. Firstly is the people, second is plastic, and third is the processing. So let's see. Firstly, they say the people here we're talking about are the waste pickers, the scrap dealers, aggregators who are the collectors of this, and reprocessors. They form a pyramid that saves the costs of large producers, because already the cost which should have been borne by these producers, or the collection processes that should have been taken care of by these producers or manufacturers, they're already done by these waste pickers, scrap dealers, etc. And that is why these large producers save themselves from a very hefty cost. So this structure saves the local government from solid waste management issues. However, they lack health coverage, social security, minimum wage, although lauded by the Swachh Bharat Mission plastic waste book. Now, we might ask ourselves a question that what if? So, what is wrong if some burden is being reduced and people actually are taking it as their profession and working in collection of the plastic waste? The only problem significantly arises here is that these, we might think that they are actually working or they are earning through this particular thing, but they actually lack a lot of services which the other workers get from the government. For example, they lack the health coverage, social security, minimum wages, etc. And that is why if at all we are taking or they are helping us reduce the cost of the waste management, so definitely these all benefits should be provided to them by the government. So the EPR should have worked on registering this data. So if at all, yes, of course, if the extent producer responsibility is being reduced due to the work or the hard work of these particular rack pickers, scrap dealers, etc. So the cost as well as all of this data should have been registered very much, duly registered in the EPR system. Now, the second shortcoming which was noticed was plastic. So EPR only mentions plastic packaging. Here, it completely fails to account multi-material plastic items. For example, we have the sanitary pads. So you must be noticing that we generally have one wrapping of the main sanitary napkins, right? Then individually also the sanitary napkins are packed with different plastic sheets. Or if we talk about the shoes, the chappals that we wear, or the footwears that we wear, they have the box. Sometimes they have a plastic bag around them. Then they also have individual plastics on the particular shoe. They have some kind of foam and other kinds of plastic stuffed into the shoes as well. So all of these are called as multi-material plastic packaging or multi-material plastic items. So they have been completely ignored out of the definition from the EPR, and it only includes one single plastic packaging. So in order to address the plastics, the EPR what it could do, strengthen the informal recycle chain with adequate infrastructure for easily recyclable plastic that we were just discussing about. It could also, it addresses the typically flexible plastics by mandating use of the recycled plastic, and also the commitment made by the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016 for multi-layered plastics have been reversed. So here also, these multi-layered plastic packaging should have been very much included when we were talking about the extended producer responsibility. Then the third one is the processing, and it says that the draft EPR legitimizes the incineration and co-processing mechanism that continues to release carbon dioxide. Now, when we're talking about, dumping the plastic, so have we actually bothered ourselves to use the right method to dump the plastics? Not really, because it actually legitimizes, it legal that it can be burnt, it can be incinerated, which is further a big source of carbon dioxide, and we already are fighting enough with the global warming and climate change. So that was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you all. If you want to download the PDF of today's slides, please join our Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, please do not forget to follow us on our Instagram channels, and please give it a thumbs up if you like this discussion. Thank you so much.